the name itself is like Bhashya style.
Yeah, well, at least that's what they say here. Yeah, and normally, yeah, it is. It's like an expository style of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the difference that they say in the book, and which we can also observe, is that in this one, basically, when you read kavya, most of the time, not so much is explained as they're just giving you ways to understand the verse. So they're breaking the compounds, they're giving synonyms so that you can understand the verse as it's being, as you're reading it. Whereas with the Bhashya style, you're reading like philosophical works, like a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, where the commentator is actually explaining ideas and concepts. And, he's giving a lot more than you would see with like kavya, where kavya is just going to be, again, definitions and synonyms so you can understand the poetry. So, they're both useful.
Right.
But yeah, that's the difference there. And naturally, this one, the Bhashya style, I found to be a lot more useful, at least, situationally. But we can start wherever. They're both really useful. We could start from the beginning and just move through it. What do you think?
Everything looks good to me. I mean, useful.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just start from the beginning then. We don't really need to read their introduction is just talking about how the book came about and all of that. Talks about the 5 services of a commentary. So word division, giving the meaning of the words, breaking the compounds, vigraha, making some sense with the sentences.
What is this? Padacheda, Padarthokti, Vigraha.
Yeah, there's a verse for that. So padacheda, like breaking the sandhi.
Mm-hmm.
Padarthokti, giving the meaning of the words. It's like atma, manaha, defining. Vigraha, breaking the samasas. Vakya yojana, helping, like giving some sense to the sentences. So like putting them in a syntactical order. In other words, doing anvaya, basically. Vakya yojana. And then akshepa samadhana is the thing that Bhashya style does, basically giving more commentary on the text itself.
Akshepa samadhana.
Yeah. There's a nice verse here actually for that from Nyaya Kosha. I don't know, maybe you want to screenshot that.
I'm actually writing it down, the 5 terms. Yeah, done. So these are the 5 things which we generally do while reading a commentary, or we are supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and that the commentator is setting out to do by writing the commentary.
Can you just read something from Akshepa Samadhana?
Yeah, we can read it, yeah. Akshepa Samadhana, the answering of objections. This part of a commentary is concerned with the ideas contained in...
I'm not able to see in that page. Okay, now it's there.
You can see? It's just got a little lag, I guess. The answering of objections. This part of a commentary is concerned with the ideas contained in the original text rather than with its words. Accordingly, it differs from the 4 preceding services in 2 ways. First, at this level, a commentary goes beyond straightforward exegesis and becomes an argumentative treatise in its own right. So you can see it's written in very scholarly, these guys are language philosophers, so it's definitely written in complex English. It becomes an argumentative treatise in its own right. Second, this portion of a commentary is based on the style of oral debate rather than on the style of oral instruction, so that it uses a different arsenal of vocabulary, syntax, and organization. So basically what he's saying there is the Purva Paksha style, Nanu.
Right.
giving some objection, then answering the objection. And so they'll talk about all of the devices that they use so you can understand where the objection starts, stops, where the answer starts, how it relates. An understanding of this style can be applied to the reading of any text written in expository Sanskrit, whether that text is a commentary or not. The first four of these services from the subject form the subject of part one of this handbook. In their achievement through methods of glossing using non-technical language, their achievement through the use of the technical elements of Paninian grammar is touched on here in sections 118 and 1 through 120, but a full treatment of the topic lies outside the scope of this handbook in its present form. The fifth service forms the subject of part two, because that's mainly how the Bhashya style is used, is this Akshepa Samadhana. You know, we see objections are raised. Oh, Itya Sankhya, he would have thought like this, so then that's why he's saying this.
It's interesting they have used this word service with this, like fourth service, fifth service.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Do you want to just read through the whole thing, or we can jump around, or what do you think?
Just these bullet points, like Padacheda, what's that
Yeah.
English?
Padacheda, the division of words, the resolution of external sandhi. Padartokti, statement of the meaning of the words or giving of synonyms, paraphrases, definitions, and examples. Vigraha, analysis of complex formations or breaking them down into their constituent elements. Vakya yojana, construing the sentences or indicating how the words fit together syntactically. So doing anvaya. And so the first section is going to deal with those four and not really with Akshepa Samadhana.
Okay.
Yeah. Types of glossing. In the following sections, methods of glossing will be taken up one by one, but in an actual commentary, they often work together in explaining a particular word. So he's saying that you won't just see Padacheda done and then Padartokti done and then Vakya Yojana. You'll see all four of them done at the same time. So they're saying, you know, and actually you already know, we already know this because we're reading commentaries, but you can, for somebody who's just getting into it, you know, it's a little confusing because you see all four employed in the same place.
Right.
As preliminary examples of the types of glossing used by commentators and of how the explanation of those types is distributed in this handbook, here are the full remarks of the commentator Malinath on three words from the Raghuvamsha of Kalidas. In the first example, Malinath is glossing the word Shaishave in infancy. Shishur bhavaha shaishavam balyam. Tana bridge jati vayo vachanodgatri adibhyong ityang pratyaha shishutvam shaishavam balyam ityamaraha tasmin vayasi shaishave. Infancy is the condition of being an infant, childhood. The suffix ang, i.e. a, with vriddhi strengthening of the first syllable of the first stem to which it is added by Sutra 51129 in Panini's grammar. Ang is added to words for species of animals and for the ages of life, and to udgatri, etc., in the senses of the condition of being, that, or the activity of that, infanthood, infancy, childhood, amara, in that age of life. So they give a really good, very literal translation. And this is a more complex example because they don't actually intend for students to read this one. It's just an example given. But as we move in, they'll give simpler examples of the concepts as they go. And it makes it very easy to get the style of how it's used and then start to see it in our own reading.
So why, I mean, the title is types of glossing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what it is connected to out of the four, or it's a separate thing?
All four of them are methods of glossing. So Padacheda is a type of gloss because you're making the work more clear by breaking the sandhis. So in that way you're glossing it. Padartokti is a type of gloss because you're giving synonyms and you're giving the meaning of the words. Vakya Yojana is a type of gloss because you're putting everything in order. So they're all methods used for the purpose of glossing the text. And by doing those four, then you fully gloss the text because you make it clear, you know? Here, Shishur Bhavaha is an analysis in ordinary language of the formation Shaishavam, an example of secondary nominal derivation. So Shaishavam is the thing that's being glossed. So the first thing he says is Shishur Bhavaha. I can't highlight because this is a scan. Shishur Bhavaha is Shaishavam, and then a synonym is given, Balyam. So that's Padartokti. The next sentence, so this is followed by a simple synonym, Balyam. The next sentence gives the tadita suffix by which the word is formed according to the Paninian system of grammar and quotes the specific rule by which its formation is justified. So we see Shishur Bhavaha, Shaishavam, Balyam. Then we see the sutra of Panini quoted, the definition of the pratyaya, and then another gloss. The next sentence cites the treatment of the word in the dictionary of Amara. Okay, so Shishutvam, Shaishavam, Balyam, that's just another kind of technical way to gloss it. Infantness. So Shaishavam and Shishutvam. Shishutvam is just it's another synonym for Shaishavam because that's the meaning of the pratyaya that's attached. Oh, and Shishutvam, Shaishavam, Balyam, that's from Amara Kosha.
Right.
That's it. Yeah. And then the final sentence after these explanations in which the word has been treated in the nominative case, in effect gives it in the locative case ending that it has in the original text. So because we started with Shaishave, he gives all of the gloss and then he says tasmin because he's explained that it means balyam, shishutvam, shaishavam. He says in that, and then vayasi, he gives another in that age. Tasmin vayasi, shaishave. This last step is necessary so that the word will fit properly in the syntactical arrangement of the entire verse, because that's the other thing that they're doing is they're syntactically arranging the whole verse in the commentary also. That was one really interesting thing for me when I read this, is that actually if you take a commentary and you highlight all the words in the commentary that are from the original verse, most commentators are also making an anvaya. Even though all the things are in between there, there's also an anvaya there. So if you highlight that. In the examples given in this handbook, the words repeated from a text being commented on are emphasized in bold type, so they make that easy. In this example, the word being explained never actually appears in the commentary in the same form that it has in the original text, and we have therefore supplied it in square brackets at the point at which the words of the commentary serve to reconstitute it. So right there, tasmin vayasi shaishave.
Right.
In the next example, Malinath explains the word prajanam, of the people. I think we can skip these next two examples because they're going to share basically the same thing, and it's something that I think we understand pretty well. And we might also be able to just skip the Sunday part because we're both pretty, I don't think we need it.
So they have included Sandhi also.
Say again?
They have included Sandhi also here.
Yeah, division. The next chapter will be about Sunday. And I think, let me just look. Repetition of the words in the text. Ordinarily, this commentary repeats each word found in the text. For examples of how this is done, because each word. For purposes of word division, the repetition of words from the text involves ambiguity only when two adjacent items in the text are repeated next to each other in the commentary without the insertion of intervening explanatory material. Because it may not be clear whether or not such items form a compound word, the commentator will sometimes explicitly state whether they are two words or one, or will specify where the division should be made. So in the case of a manoho, manum ara bet yabividihi, padadvayam chaitat samasasya vibashitatvad. So padadvayam chaita, this is two words. Samasasya vibhashitatvad.
And mano, right?
Yeah, he's saying and mano because you could take them as one word. Beginning with manu. This is an inclusive limit. And these are two words, padadvayam chaitat, etat padadvayam, because the compound is optional. Samasasya vibhashitatvad. So literally because of the optionality of the compound, these are two words. Tadeti chedaha, tada prabriti, tata arabhyeti artaha. Divide after tada, from then on, i.e. beginning then.
What is that? Tadeti chedaha.
Mm-hmm.
Tadeti cheda means tada prabriti.
Yeah, he's saying tada iti chedaha.
Something new for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one. So that kind of stuff comes more, an explanation of how that works comes more in the second part. How the uses of iti and where it's used, and they give profuse examples for everything they explain. So it's really good. It's a good book. Tvaya yata shrutam tataiva tat yata shrutam iti dve pade. Because yata shrutam, we could take that as a bahuvrihi, or not a bahuvrihi, a avyayi bhava samasa. But he's saying yata shrutam iti dve pade. These are two words. It is just as you have heard yata shrutam. These are two words.
No, what was this?
You understand?
No, I didn't get this third one.
So yata shrutam, normally, because if we take like yata and it can be in the beginning of a compound, and then it can be an avyayi bhava compound. So then it can take a little bit of a different meaning. Like I'm trying to remember the multiple meanings that, because depending on the avyaya, the meanings, there can be various meanings. But basically, because the point is he's saying yata shrutam iti dvepade. That's the point.
Okay. Right.
Without going into the actual meaning, he's just showing that the author is explicitly stating that yata and shrutam are not a compound. They're two.
Just like we have the samasa yatha shakti or yathamati.
Yes. According to my intelligence,
But that is samasa, right?
Yes.
And this one is not a samasa.
Yeah. Or it could also be, we'd have to see what the commentator says. It depends on the meaning you would get if it was a samasa, and if that was the meaning that was being conveyed, or if maybe the samasa and the two words would give the same meaning. Like here, I could see the samasa giving the same meaning, yata shrutam, tvaya yata shrutam. But the commentator is going out of his way to explicitly say these are two words. For whatever his purpose is. And that's more the point, is we're just observing the mechanisms the commentator is using to gloss the terms. Okay. So he's saying yata shrutam iti dvepade. Yata and shruta they're two words. It's not a compound. Citation of individual words. In the course of giving a running gloss, the words repeated from the text are generally presented in the same form in which they appear in the text. Often a commentator will also single out a word for further remarks, and when this is done, there are four principal methods of citing the word, i.e. of referring to it as a word rather than simply using it in the course of a continuous gloss. The first method is using the word iti. So this is really easy. The word may be followed by iti. Vikriyanta iti karmani. The verb vikriyante is passive. So vikriyante iti karmani, in karmani prayoga, is just saying that the word iti is being used in order to put vikriyante in parentheses. Iti pranaya kope. The particle is used in feigned anger. And then the next method, shabda and kara. So chakara, cha shabda, We see this all the time. Dwau kwa shabdau mahad antaram suchayataha. The two words where, so in the original,
Ko shabdam.
it would be kwa or kwa. Usually it's used separately, but dwau kwa shabdau mahad antaram suchayataha. These two words suggest a great difference. The two words where suggest a great difference. Parvati Parameshwarao Parama Shabdaha Sarvotamatva Dyotanartha. So Parvati and Parameshwarao, and he's saying the word Parama in Parameshwara, Sarvotamatva Dyotanartha, is for the purpose of displaying the absolute supremacy. Sarvotamatva Dyotanartha. So again, they're just showing that an author will use the word shabda to explicitly state, I'm talking about this word. Kim cheti chakarartaha. The meaning of the particle cha is furthermore, kimcha iti chakarartaha.
Oh, wow.
So cha means kimcha. Next one, an inflected indeclinable. If the word is indeclinable, it may be given an inflectional ending and be declined like a masculine noun. The presence of the case ending will then be enough to indicate that the word is being referred to as a word rather than being used in its own meaning. Ambiguity exists only when the indeclinable ends in a long vowel and is presented in the nominative, but here the context will usually make it clear that the word is being referred to as a word. Apihi samuchaye. Api is used in the sense of conjunction. So they're saying sometimes they'll take an avyaya and they'll give it a vibhakti.
Oh, really? I mean, never saw that.
I've never seen it, but they're quoting this Raghuvamsha. Atava apakshantare. Atava is used in the sense of an alternative. So he's saying this is where it gets confusing, because since it's already got a long
right.
Put a vibhakti on it, then it doesn't, because it looks like it's feminine, or it's feminine because it's a long then it, you can't really tell that they've done that. Chaha purvapekshaya samuchaye hiti pate charte hi. The particle cha is used in the sense of conjunction with respect to what precedes. Chaha purvapekshaya samuchaye. In the reading, he is used in the meaning of the particle cha. Hiti pate charte hi. So again, we just see he is using hiti to refer to he, the word he. He iti means he's putting he in parentheses, and chaha also means he's putting cha in parentheses because he's talking about that word. And charte, well, charte is a little different. That's the meaning of cha, but you see cha has been put in a samasa there. So it's basically chasya arte.
Right.
As the word charte in the last example shows, this device can also be used in compound, where the inflectional ending will, of course, be absent. This should not result in ambiguity as long as it is recognized that a compound is being used. And the fourth one, anubandhas. The word may be displayed along with the indicatory letters used in the Paninian system of grammar. Atapo vanat ang maryadayam. So just like, he's just like we have ang mang vyam nityam. He's explaining that this is that ang in the sense maryadayam of maryada, of a limit. So atapo vanat is as far as they say the penance grove, tapavana. Nango visheshanatvam cha shabda prayogad eva gyayam. And that the word na, called nang in Panini's grammar, is a modifier, visheshanatvam, nango visheshanatvam, can be known simply from the use of the word cha shabda prayogat eva gyayam. This was the most interesting part of the book for me, really, was to know all of this stuff, how they use the Shashti Vibhakti and these abstract statements, and how they use fifth case and all these things. But that, again, that comes in the second part. Variant readings. So that's an easy one. You know that we always see like pata, patati, pate. So prartayadvam iti apapataha. Prartayadvam it's a bad reading. Apapataha. Kshataham kara shamsina iti jarat pato tra ramyataraha. So the old reading, jarat pataha atra ramyataraha, is more pleasing, is more appealing. And we see iti is used to quote the particular thing that they're talking about. Mamarpitam iti patantaram. Another reading, patantaram, is marmarpitam. Mamarpitam. That's a spelling mistake. Kechit sahasika trilochanam iti petuhu. So sahasika, they say, means commentators or reckless commentators. Some of them, Kechit sahasika trilochanam iti petuhu, they will read, or they read trilochana.
Right.
In what, whatever verse this is. So that's simple, but really useful.
Even in Bhagavatam also, it comes a lot of times. Like in the shlokas, like they would say, so it would come like uchu, just uchu, no subject with that. Or like verbs like that. Or like mene, let's say mene. Who mene, nothing mentioned, but mene.
Yeah. So you're seeing that adokshaja usage.
Because here petu also is
1-3 adokshaja,
yeah.
Yeah, of pat. So now giving the meaning of words. This will be a little more interesting than the Sandhi one, or the, those citation. Introduction. Let's see if this is useful. We'll just read it. The basic task of giving the meaning of a word in the text being commented is carried out by placing an explanation of that meaning at the simplest level, often merely a synonym for it, alongside the word in question. Ordinarily, this simple gloss follows the word being explained, but the location of the gloss may vary. Commentators may also gloss words with equivalent forms other than simple synonyms, and may expand the gloss in various ways, or append more removed paraphrases. Techniques are available for dealing with words that refer by extension to objects other than those directly denoted, and with words that have double meanings. These techniques of glossing may be supplemented by the use of separate definitions. Further devices are used in glossing special items such as proper names, the names of species, particles, indeclinables, and pronouns. When the word being explained happens to be a complex formation arrived at through derivation, the formation may be analyzed using the formulas available for each of the types of derived stems. Words may also be explained through the use of technical elements of Paninian grammar. So first, simple synonyms. The words repeated from the text being commented on are most commonly glossed by the insertion of a synonym after each. Simple glosses of this sort may be provided for virtually every part of speech. Vande abhivadaye. I honor means I salute. Vande means abhivadaye. Matihi pragya me mama nunam dhruvam. So simple, synonyms.
These are examples from Raghuvansha.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
What is this M stands
for? I think it means Mahakavya.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. So what are they pointing out here? These inserted glosses are placed in a grammatical apposition with the word being glossed. Thus, a gloss of a verb will agree with it in person and number. A gloss of substantive will agree with it in case and number. And a gloss of an adjective will agree with it in case, number, and gender. So, vande abhivadaye, mohad agyanat, snigdo maduraha. So they're just showing that they're going to agree in their case, depending on the thing. Location of glosses. Usually the gloss follows immediately after the word quoted from the text being commented on. There are two principal exceptions. Enclitics and other words closely dependent upon a preceding word must usually be separated from the words they are glossing. Aushadam yata aushadam iva, as if medicine like medicine. Here iva glosses yata. So they're saying, he didn't say aushadam yata iva. He's saying that he had to put aushadam again, so he glossed the whole term like that. Aushadam yata means aushadam iva. Tāsam pitarastu janma hetavo janma matra kartaraha kevalam utpadaka eva bhuvan. Tāsam pitarastu janma hetavo. So the fathers of those girls, to janma hetava, the causes of their birth. So pitaraha is glossed as janma hetava. Janma matra kartaraha, only the doers of simply their birth, kevalam utpadakaha eva bhuvan. So the generators only, basically their progenitors only. So it's a bunch of different glosses. But their parents were causes of birth, creators merely of birth alone, simply producers. And then eva, utpadaka eva, kevalam utpadaka eva, abhuvan. So you see that it's glossed three different ways here. Vigrahas. When an analysis of a grammatical complex, such as a nominal compound, is given, the original word from the text is generally repeated after the analysis rather than before it. Glossing by equivalent forms. A simple gloss need not be an exact morphological copy of the original. Often a different construction with equivalent meaning is used instead. Two types of glossing by equivalent forms are especially common. A paraphrastic construction is used to bring out the precise meaning of a morphological feature in the original. Anumeya anumatum yogyaha. So anumeya is, we know this is like a Vidilin sense.
Right.
And then anumatum yogyaha, capable of being understood or inferred. Anumatum yogyaha. Anumeya means anumatum yogyaha, inferable or able to be inferred. So, this is what they call this form, anumatum, these two mantas. They call them paraphrastic phrases in language. I don't particularly mind about that stuff in the English equivalents. I've just had to learn it enough to understand it here. I prefer to try to read the Sanskrit through Sanskrit as much as I can, but common one, yagyaya. So fourth case, yagyam kartum. In order to do yagya, yagyaya for yagya. Muche mukto bhavami. So I am freed. Mukto bhavami, I am freed. I become freed. Participles. A past active participle may be used to gloss a finite verb. Na vyatiyor natikrantavatyah. They did not transgress. Na vyatiyor. They did not go beyond. Na atikrantavatyah. Jugopa. Sorry.
This is feminine, na atikrantavatyah.
It's like gantavat. Yeah, it's feminine. So it's na atikrantavati.
Right.
Yeah.
This is also like vyatiyuhu is finite verb, right?
Yeah. I think it's vidilinga, vidi. Use.
Yeah, vyatiyu looks like.
Yeah,
But the gloss
ati
is
is
the
v
gloss.
ati e use. like
And the
ingatao.
gloss is a noun.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. The participles will be used to gloss.
Mm.
Jugopa Rakshitavan, he guarded. Jugopa Rakshitavan, he protected.
Oh,
So
this is from,
Rakshitavat, Raksh plus Tavat.
maybe Sanskrit Bharati is saw this.
Because they like this, huh? They always
Yeah.
use this. Expansions of glosses. A simple gloss is often expanded beyond the mere giving of a synonym by including illustrative or explanatory material. Inserted examples are generally offered in the forms ending in adi, such as Suribihi Kavivir Valmikyadibihi. So that's an easy one. Suribihi means Kavibihi, such as Valmiki, Valmikyadibihi. Sages means poets like Valmiki. By sages, by poets such as Valmiki. Nripagunai, Rajagunai, Tejaha Pratapadibi, Kula Shila Dakshinyadibhischa. Nripagunai, so the qualities of a king. Rajagunai, a direct gloss for Nripa is Raja. Teja Pratapadibihi, Kula Shila Dakshinyadibhischa. With the qualities of a king, with royal qualities such as valor and prowess, Teja Pratapadibihi, and such as good family, good conduct, and politeness. So Kula, Shila, Dakshinyadibhischa. So it's an expansion of it's an example of what Rajagunaihi means. I remember, where was this? Sridhar Swami glosses like this when Krishna is telling him this isn't fit for Aryans, or somewhere around there. And then he lists the Shatra Dharma, in these things, and it just glosses it like this.
Okay.
Implications. Commentators very frequently fill out a gloss by explicitly stating what is merely implied in the original wording. Rakshanad Bhaya Hetu Bhyastranat. So because of protecting, Rakshanad, and then Bhaya Hetu Bhyastranat, he's giving a more explicit meaning of exactly what he's protecting from. Because of protection from sources of danger, Bhaya Hetu Bhyastranat. Bharanad Ana Panadibihi Poshanat. So Bharanad, sustaining, means Ana Panadibihi Poshanat, nourishing, Poshanat, with food and water, with things such as food and water, because of nourishing with food, drink, etc.
Quite interesting. Anna literally means like food.
Yeah, like eaten, right?
Huh?
It's a past participle, right? For ad.
Yeah. Right. But conventionally, Anna is used, um, for food.
Yeah.
But Pana is the activity of drinking.
Yeah. Pa and liut
Pana.
pratyaya is ana.
Just like Anna and
Pana.
Pana.
Yeah. Parinetur daran parigrinnatah. Of the merrier, parinetuhu daran parigrinnatah. Of the wetter of a wife.
Daran parigrihnatah. Daran.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that formation, because it's dara and it's masculine. So daran is,
Actually, it should be Daram. Looks like.
yeah, it's plural.
And then wives.
Yeah, the marrier of wives. But then it doesn't
No,
make,
actually, I think it should be 2-1. Daram. Because
you're right. Yeah.
parigrihnata is ekvachana.
But then it doesn't make sense because it would be daram.
No, actually, parinetu also, nal atus us. Parinetu is bahuvachana.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, parinetu. No.
No, that's
Oh,
six.
actually, parinetu is 6-1. Parinetri.
Yeah. So we have parigrihnataha, parigrihnatri, parigrihnataha.
Mm-hmm.
So that works. Parinetahu, parigrihnataha, but I don't understand. Oh, no, it's the wives of the husband. Parinetahu daran. And parigrihnataha is just a gloss of parinetahu. So daran doesn't go with parigrihnataha. We don't get the next word in the gloss because we're just getting an abstract or an extract. So you take these two together because dada is masculine, and so it's dadan is 2-3. So parinetuhu dadan, the wives of the marrier, of the husband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then this is a gloss of this. So it's
Parinetu.
not, yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
But actually, I don't know. I think the translation here is complicated or it's not correct.
Yeah, it's a little weird because they put of the wedder of a wife.
Uh,
Yeah. It should say the wives of the marrier of the wedder because it's not dadasya parigranataha.
hmm.
That's how they wrote this, of the wedder of a wife. Should be dadasya.
Mhm.
Similarly, commentators often spell out the implications of an expression by making implied contrasts explicit. Yashase kirtaye vijigishunam vijetum ichunam na tvarta samgrahaya prajayai samtanaya grihamedinam dara parigrahanam na tu kamopabhogaya. Of those who were desirous of victory, wishing to conquer for the sake of fame or glory. So yashase kirtaye, for the sake of fame, of glory. Kirtaye is a gloss of yashase. Vijigi shunam, vijetum ichunam. Of those who were desirous of victory, vijigi shunam. So this is, what is that, sun pratyaya?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sun pratyaya. Vijetum ichunam. Natu artha samgrahaya, but not for the attainment of wealth. So he's giving more of the implication because the text itself says they wanted fame, they wanted glory, and the commentator is saying natu artha samgrahaya prajaya samtanaya grihamedinam dara prahigrahanam natu kamopabhogaya, and not for the sake of attainment of or enjoyment of lust or desirable things, which are the desires of dara parigrahanam grihamedinam, the householders who have taken wives. Yeah. So again, just showing that what's being said, or in order to gloss the terms, some definition is given, some more thing that's not said in the text is given. More removed paraphrases. When a commentator feels that glossing a word with a synonym or equivalent form is not sufficient, he may provide a freer paraphrase. Such paraphrases are usually followed by one of three phrases: ityarthaha, iti bhavaha, or iti yavat. So we see this all the time. They'll give like a whole sentence or a couple sentences and say, this is the sense of this term. Ityarthaha, tato nirvishesham nirbhedam, tat sadrisham ityarthaha. Tato nirvishesham nirbhedam tat sadrisham. So not different or not separated means like it. Tat sadrisham ityarthaha. Lola chapala paribhramana shila ityarthaha. So lola or chapala, like fickleness, or restlessness, restless, means paribhramana shila, the tendency to go here and there. Just as frequently, they are used instead of a simple gloss. Mandam gatim na bhindanti na tyajanti ityartha. Mandam gatim na bhindanti na tyajanti ityartha. So na bhindanti means na tyajanti. Their slow pace, they do not break. Na bhindanti. In other words, they do not abandon it. So they don't give up. They're mandam gati. Naga vadupabhogyam naga kanya parinetaram ityartha. So the enjoyer of the naga vadu means naga kanya parinetaram, the husband of the young naga or the naga girl.
Upabhogyam.
Yeah. So it's naga vadva upabhogya. That's how they're glossing it. Say again.
Nag vadva upabhogya.
Yeah. Because upabhogya has the vidhi sense.
No, but still. Okay, Nag, actually then it would be Nag Vadhuna. Because if you see the translation here, one who was to be enjoyed by a Naga wife.
But because Vadhu is Trivikramanta, right? So it's Vadva, like Nadia, 3-1.
Okay, yeah, then it will be, of course, Vadva.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And Upabhogya is like Bhoktavya, that sense. Bhogya, Bhoktavya.
Okay. Parineta.
And Iti Bhavaha, they just explain that Iti Bhavaha usually gives something a little more abstract. Like Ityartha would be very clear, but Iti Bhavaha gives more of like an idea. It's used to mark comments that go a step further by stating the underlying idea intended by the author of the text being commented on. Anvishta mrigar, margita mrigai, shrantayar iti bhavaha. For deer, anvishta mrigar. So basically, literally, by those who had been, or whose desire was the deer, right? Anu ishta mrigar.
Okay.
Anvishta, yeah, anu ishtaha mrigaha, yasya, anvishta mrigaha. Anvishta mrigar, margita mrigahi, shrantayar iti bhavaha. The idea is that they were tired. For those who had been following deer, margita mrigahi, shrantayar iti bhavaha. So he's giving some idea that you couldn't normally get just by reading the terms. Because it just says that they were following after deer, or who had followed deer. And the idea, the sense, iti bhavaha, is shrantaha, that they were tired. So that's how iti bhava is used. Kinchit parilupta dharyaha na tu prakrita janavad atyanta lupta dharya iti bhavaha. Parilupta dharyaha. So his dharya, his calmness, parilupta, slightly, he's saying, agitated or disturbed. Na tu prakrita janavad, but not like normal people. Prakrita janavad. Atyanta lupta dharya iti bhavaha. Who get extremely disturbed, whose calmness would be extremely disturbed.
Yeah.
That's the sense. Because expressions that are difficult enough to require a free paraphrase are also likely to require further explanation, it is quite common to find a remark ending with ityarthaha being followed immediately by a comment ending with iti bhavaha. Sachi krita tastau hriyamukam sachi kritya stitetyartaha. Na kevalam harasyaiva devya apyudito rati bhava iti bhava. Sachi krita tastau. She stood turned aside, i.e., she stood with her face averted out of embarrassment. So ityartaha kriya mukam sachi kritya stita or stita because it's feminine. So she stood having turned to the side. Kriya mukam.
Out of embarrassment.
Yeah. Na kevalam harasya eva devya apyudito rati bhava iti bhavaha. The sense is that rati bhavaha udita, affection or the mood of affection or had arose. Harasya eva devya api. Na kevalam harasya eva devya apyudito rati bhava iti bhavaha. So Hara means Lord Shiva. Na kevalam harasya eva, not only in Lord Shiva, Devya api. So in Devi also, udito rati bhavaha iti bhavaha. The sense is that the rati bhava had not arisen only in Lord Shiva, harasya eva, but Devya api. Yeah. Kleshaha palena palasidya punan navatam vidatte purvavad eva klishtatam apadayat ityartha. Apadayati ityartha. Sa palaha klesho na klesha iti bhavaha. Toil through its fruit, through the accomplishment of its fruit. So kleshaha palena. Kleshaha, so misery or hard work. Palena, through its fruit or by the fruit. Palasidhya, by the accomplishment of its fruit. Palena means palasidhya. Punar navatam vidatte, attains newness again. Navatva navatam. So hard work by its fruits or by the attainment of its fruit, vidatte, punar navatam vidatte, gives. What is this vidatte? I always wondered about this. Is it
That is
dha?
actually
What's the dhatu?
दूधा धारण पोषणयो.
What is it?
दूधा धारण पोषणयो.
What's the what gana is it in?
Dadati. I think the third one,
I see.
Juhotyadi,
I see.
because
I
it
was
will
just always
become
wondering how we
Dadati.
got these two T's, these two tas next to each other, because I've seen it a few times.
So, and V Purvak Dhan Dhatu is used in the sense of Dukriya Dhatu. Like in Prahlad Maharaj's Katha, 7th canto, Satyam Vidhatum. So that Vidhatum is in the sense of Satyam Karotum.
Yeah.
So this is a rule. V Purvak Dhan Dhatu is used in the sense of Kri Dhatu, to do.
I see. There's Jiva Goswami uses this dhatu also in his pranam mantra or his Mangalacharana verse in Tattva Sandarbha. What is that? Sa Krishno Vidatam Sa Shri Krishno Sa Shri Krishno Vidatam Swayam Iha Bhagavan Prema Tatpada Bhajam. Sa Shri Krishna Vidatam. I'm forgetting a word. Anyway, he uses the form Vidatam in like Lotlakara. You know?
Vidatam.
Yeah, Vidatam in Vidatri Lakara. And I was just wondering, how is this what are these two T's coming? You know, these two taramas next to each other. But now I know. Thank you. So toil or hard work or misery by its result or by the attainment of its result creates newness again. Punarnavatam again creates freshness. Purvavad evaklishtatam apadayati ityartaha. The idea is that apadayati purvavad evaklishtatam. Toil through its fruit. In other words, it makes one unburdened by toil just as one had been before. So purvavad, as before, eva aklishtatam. So unafflictedness. Apadayati. So it brings about unafflictedness as before. Purvavad
This
eva
sentence
aklishtatam. Say again.
looks a little odd. Like kleshaha means one is in some klesha.
Yeah.
And then it says purvavat eva aklishtatam apadayati.
Yeah. So that's especially when we get to the Bhashya style section, this is the way that they use these abstractives all the time. So ta. So here kleshaha means the misery itself or toil, and aklishtatam means literally unafflictedness. So purvavad eva aklishtatam apadayati. It causes one to be. So when you read these, you don't normally read them like ness.
Right.
You read them, you just read them as saying it causes one to be unafflicted as he was before. Purvavad eva aklishtatam apadayati. When we get there, they give a lot of simple examples to like get that into the brain. It's very nyayic. It's basically because this is all just the terminology of Navya Nyaya and how they use these things to put the ideas forward. Sapalaha kleshaha na kleshaha iti bhavaha. The idea is that klesha or toil or difficulty which has a fruit, sapalaha klesha na kleshaha, is not actually misery.
Okay.
Tava padavim margam aham pratipatsye tvam anugamishyami tyartaha ato me nasti vichara iti bhavaha. Tava padavim margam aham pratipatsye tvam anugamishyamiti artaha. I will follow you is the idea. Tava padavim margam aham pratipatsye. So pratipat means like anugama. Ato, therefore, me nasti vicharaha. Of me, vicharaha nasti. You shouldn't worry about me. You shouldn't have don't have any doubt about me, basically. Me nasti vicharaha iti bhavaha. Your pathway I shall resort to, I shall follow you. Hence, you need not worry about me. This is the idea. Ato me nasti vichara iti bhavaha. Iti yavat. The phrase iti yavat is used after a paraphrase. This I found interesting because I didn't know this. That expresses the meaning of the original text more precisely, either by substituting a more specific term for a wider one, or by reducing a picturesque expression to plain language. Iti yavat may thus be translated specifically, to be precise, to be put it plainly, etc., depending on the context. Manishino vidushaha dosha gyasyeti yavat. So manishino means vidushaha, and then specifically iti yavat, it means dosha gyasya, of someone who can see the faults, of a wise man, of a learned man, specifically of one who can recognize faults. So iti yavat usually means like more specifically, it like narrows the definition of whatever is being said. Punar bhavaha punar utpatihi samsara iti yavat. Reoccurring, arising again, to be precise, transmigration. Punar bhavaha punar utpatihi samsara iti yavat. Vedi vilagna madhya vedivat krisha madhya tanu madhyeti yavat. So Vedi Vilagna Madhya means Vedivat krisha madhya, one whose waist is krisha like a Vedi. Vedivat krisha madhya tanu madhyeti yavat. Specifically, it means one who has a very thin waist. Tanu madhya.
Why we have this like Vedi Lagna?
Say again.
Means is the Vedi thin or like thin? Yeah, thin.
Well, Vedi Vilagna Madhya, this is commonly used, at least by Kali Dāsa. I remember reading this a couple times, because an altar is apparently shaped like this. It's like two triangles,
What
and
is
it
that?
comes together in the center and it's very thin. So it's a commonly used adjective for like a beautiful lady that she has
No,
a
when you refer to Vedi, then Vedi means the
altar,
so.
like for Vedic sacrifices.
Mhm.
It comes together in the middle, very, very thin, apparently. So they say this, Vedi Vilagna Madhya, one whose waist is like a Vedi. Vedi Vat Krisha Madhya. Other phrases, iti abhipraya, iti tatparyaha, iti ashayaha. They mean basically the same thing as ityarthaha and iti bhavaha. So we see these also. Yatashmashana shupa satkriya na kriyate tata tvam api tasmai na ghatasa iti tatparyarthaha. The overall sense is that just as the consecration of the sacred post used in Vedic ritual is not performed for the executioner's stake in a cemetery, so also you are suited for him. Yata iti tatparyartaha. Shmashana shupa satkriya na kriyate. Shmashana shupa satkriya na kriyate. So yata shmashana shupa satkriya na kriyate. Just as, and when I went over this, I looked up all the words. What is a shupa again?
Shupa is something used in the sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's Shupa or Super?
It says shupa here.
Must be Super.
Hmm.
So it's
Oops.
looks like a vessel.
Hmm. So just as smashana shupa satkriya na kriyate, tata tvamapi tasmai na gatasa iti. So tvam na gatase. You should not be tasmai for him. Tata tvamapi tasmai na gatase. So they're just giving, again, iti tatparyartha. They're just giving examples of how iti tatparya and ityartha are synonyms. Iti bhavaha. Anena, etena. In another group of formulas used to mark comments on the author's intentions, the remark of the commentator begins with the word anena or etena, by this expression or statement. The formulas anena vivakshitaha and anena iti vivakshite, both meaning by this he means to say, are used with essentially the same force as the formula ityartaha. The other formulas beginning with anena generally involve an attempt to convey the subtler implications or suggestions of the author's statement, e.g., anena suchitaha and anena iti suchite, both meaning by this is hinted at. Anena iti gamyate, by this is made known. Anena iti dhwanyate, by this it is suggested. All such formulas should be self-explanatory once their general pattern has been understood. Abhyasta vidyanam etena brahmacharyashramo vivakshitaha. Abhyasta vidyanam. So of those whose knowledge was practiced, basically, or studied. Etena brahmacharya ashramo vivakshita. And by this phrase, the brahmacharya ashram is explicitized or expressed.
Their translation is sacred studentship.
Yeah. So we can just say brahmacharya ashram.
Yeah, but sacred studentship.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird translation. Atarva nider iti anena purohita krityabhi ghyatva tat karma nirvahakatvam muner astiti suchyate. I remember going over this one. So atarva nidehi iti. Atarva nider iti. So by the word atarva nidehi, purohita krityabhi ghyatvat tat karma nirvahakatvam munehi asti iti suchayate. So atarva nidehi iti suchayate. By the phrase atarva nidhi, it is suggested that the munehi asti tat karma nirvahakatvam, he is a performer, a nirvahaka of those karmas. Purohita krityabhi gyatvat, because he knows nicely the activities or kritya of a purohita, of a priest. Purohita krityabhi gyatvat tat karma nirvahakatvam munehi. So again, we see the it's super common in commentaries, the combination of Shashti Vibhakti, Munehi, and these abstract statements like Twa and Ta.
Right.
So Tat Karma Nirvahakatvam Munehi Asti, which literally would be translated to the Muni's performanceness or performerness of those karmas is. But more colloquially, like when it starts to click in the brain, it really just means the Muni is a performer of those activities. And that they explain it like that. And when you start to read, you start to see, oh, that is really just what it's saying. Like they'll say like Ramasya Rajata, Ram's kingness. But really what that means is Ram is a king. And that's how, in commentaries, that's how they would write a statement like that. And that's how they write them, because in Navya Nyaya, that's what the language that they use. Yeah.
Oh, can we stop there, bro?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been some time. Well, I have to plug my computer in.
I'm sorry.
So I have to plug my computer in. It's dying. There we go. Okay.
This was really good, actually. I never thought something like this existed anywhere.
Yeah, it's really nice, huh? I'm glad you're also getting something from it.
This is very practical, very simple, lot of examples.
Yeah.
And even I think even if someone who is trying to understand commentaries without knowing much Sanskrit can also be benefited, at least if he has some sense.
Yeah.
So, this is good.
Nice. Yeah, like I said,
the examples are very simple. That's great.
Yeah, they're very like clear to the point. I think if we read through it together, and then we can come up with some course,
For this one, right?
To help people through it. Yeah.
I was just thinking while we were writing this.
Yeah, I think it'll be really useful. It's something that's really needed to bridge the gap between all of the just the grammar and learning like how to read without really learning how to read ideas, but just like we're learning to recognize words when we study grammar. But this is very much needed to like learn how to actually read something and get the idea out of it, you know? So yeah, I think it's really, it'll help to bridge the gap a lot.
I mean, we did 30, 25, 30 pages today. But like we went through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It'll get,
maybe, uh,
again,
yeah, nothing.
it gets really interesting too, especially when we get to like compounds, and especially like I said, when we get to that Bhashya style section and they really start to explain the way the sentences are used and like the devices used to convey things. And then you go read Sridhar Swami's commentary, and it's just like, oh, I just get that now. Like I just understand the way he's writing. And it's really, yeah, for me, it's so enlivening to get that, because that's why I'm doing this, you know, like at the end of the day, that, and to, you know, eventually to be able to read the kavyas of the Goswamis, you know, to really be able to do that. It's like if I lose everything else, Peru, I'll be able to sit down wherever I am with these books, and then, you know, no one can take that away from me. Just do some bhajan, chant your rounds, and read the books of the acharyas, you know. So it's very enlivening to me.
I'll write to Vijay Prabhu also if he's interested into this.
I'm sure he'll like it. Yeah. Yeah.
This is something direct, so he must be liking it. I'll write to him.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
So we'll resume tomorrow, Prabhuji.
Okay, Peru.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare.